G'day guys, Ross Beaton here checking in for Moto Online. We're over at Fujisawa Sportsland in Japan. Fortunate enough to get this opportunity to come over here and ride this amazing bike for Suzuki. In itself, it's a full factory edition race bike that they race here in Japan, and there's nothing on it that that isn't a factory part. So pretty special. It was a really big wow factor for us to be able to hop on and be able to do this, because not very common for the average person to be able to come over and be able to ride this bike. It's a big privilege, big thanks to Suzuki for having us. The bike today was unbelievable. It's the best bike that I've ever thrown a leg over. From the get-go, the power on this bike was really smooth. Okay, very rideable, very usable. The handling and the chassis, obviously a completely different model compared to the 17 bike. Okay, it steered much better than the previous bike that we'd ridden. Okay, so big improvements there. The forks were massively beneficial for today. The faster you rode this bike, the better it handled. Okay, so I can't compliment it enough. Okay, the amount of parts and stuff that are combined to make it what it is a special bike for sure. We were fortunate enough today to have the factory mechanics on hand to assist us with any bike changes that we required. Factory Showa were here to adjust ride height and any sort of suspension changes that we're after. They were happy to assist us with. So we really got the royal treatment today on being able to ride this bike to its capacity and really show its potential. So no expense was spared on making us comfortable on this bike, and it turned out to be a fantastic ride. I think the styling of this bike is far better than it had previously been. It's a sleek new look. It's pointy and sharp. It's all that you would think of the bike being when you ride it. Okay, it's much more slim, lighter, nimble. Okay, so it has a very sleek feel when you ride it, but the overall look, I think it's far greater than the older model, and it's definitely something that Suzuki needed to really. I think this bike sets itself apart from a lot of the other manufacturers in its look. I think it's a really innovative style, okay, and it'll definitely stand out on the track. My favourite part was probably the forks and the handling of the bike, in combination with the power. The power was really rideable. I found that you could really, it had the perfect amount of bottom end power for me to be able to carry enough momentum to really roll the throttle on. But as soon as it hit that mid section, it really took off and accelerated well. So those two combinations for me really made this bike work and stand out. So together, I think that it was very rideable for how factory this bike is. The shock on this bike was exceptional. With the new BFRC technology in this, a balance-free chamber allowed the shock to work really well while still maintaining traction around the duration of the course, all right, at high speed, low speed, everywhere. So it held up in the stroke across the bumps, all right, it tracked really well. This is technology that's generally used in GP and high performance bikes. Not generally on the production bike, but hopefully this is a sign of things to come, because the shock in this bike is a key feature on how good it handled. And I hadn't ridden a 2017 model Suzuki for a while. I had the opportunity to ride it before this bike this morning. There was massive differences, okay? So the older bike felt like there was a lot more weight at the rear end. You sat a lot more sort of flat, but towards the back of the bike. So coming off the old bike and onto this one, I found that the increased steering capacity, you were far more forward on the bike, which helped you ride it at a better speed, and you had a lot more confidence in the front end of this bike, the way it had sort of set up. The older bike I struggled, it was sort of, the shock and the rear of the bike tracked quite well, but coming into the turns, I felt that I was unstable with steering, and all those problems had been rectified by the new frame and chassis of this bike. So if this is a thing to come from the production 2018 model, I think we're in for good things.